Welcome to the Higher Self Podcast. My name is Pete Gilfill, and I'm here with my business partner, Nat Truill. We're all about helping people become business people or just become better business people. Good morning, Nat.
Good morning, Pete. How are you doing today?
I am pumped up.
Well, I am so surprised. What's happened?
Well, you know what? I didn't realize it, but we went and visited my daughter at the Ohio State, of course, the Ohio State. And we went out to have a few cocktails. We went to a college bar called the Library, and nice. I met some of her fraternity brothers. And specifically, I was talking to Stephen. So Stephen is part of PTC. It's a business fraternity. They claim it's the best business fraternity on the Ohio State campus, right? And I'm talking to him, and he goes, "Do you realize I listen to the Hire Yourself podcast?" And I thought, holy cow, this is amazing. We got college students following our podcast. Is that not awesome?
That is awesome.
Right?
So how did he come across it?
Well, my daughter had kind of mentioned what I do, and so they just said, "Wow, that sounds really cool." So they've been listening to all our podcasts.
That's awesome.
And they actually listen to them, right? So, which is kind of cool. So I was talking to Stephen, and one of the things that he was talking about is he's right now I think a sophomore, and so they have he's going for econ degree. And I said, "Well, what do you want to do with your econ degree when you graduate?" And he goes, "I don't know yet. I'm trying to figure it out." And I said, that's a lot like when we work with executives. They come to us and say, "Hey, I want a business, and I got to figure out what I want to, what kind of business do I want?" That's exactly what he's going through. And I thought, wow, that's kind of cool that we help executives find franchises that fit them, just like he's trying to find what part of business he wants to go into when he graduates.
Yeah. I think all of us on life's journey can use a little help and a little mentoring, along the way, no matter what we're trying to do, right?
Yeah. Now, a bright young man, again, PTC, giving a big shout out from that standpoint. And it's been a while since I've been in a college bar. So I don't know if you remember the experience, right? So you walk in and we went to the basement, and that smell of stale beer just hit me like when I was back in college. It was like, holy cow. And the bar was called, get this, the Library.
The library.
So you could tell your parents, "I'm going to the library on Friday night," right? So not all bad. So I wanted to talk today. I thought it's really important. We're starting to hear the R word out there in the news. Recession.
That
recession.
R word.
Yeah, that R word, right? Recession. And we're hearing more and more, is a recession coming? And is it good to own a franchise during a recession, right? Or to invest in a franchise? And so I thought what we'd do is we talk a little bit about recessions, because this is important as we look at investing in businesses or even being a business owner during a recession. And it's going to be, the future is going to be told out here soon, because the Fed has to slow down this economy, right? They're increasing rates to slow down the inflation, hopefully not putting us into a recession. And I guess it's a very tight rope that they're on to do this, but the odds are pretty limited. So I believe we may have a recession in our future. What do you think?
Well, I guess I would say I hope not, but I have pretty low level of confidence in the Fed at this point.
Yeah.
So I think anything could happen. I think also, like, if you're, all things being equal, if you're thinking about investing in a franchise or owning a franchise, why not stack the odds in your favor, manage the downside risk, and invest and build one that would, survive, if not thrive, in a recession? Right. So I think if regardless of whether there's rumors of a recession or even if it's the good times are rolling, I think it's always a good best practice to try to manage your downside risk.
Well, if you study recessions, a lot of times people talk themselves into a recession, right?
Exactly.
They start listening to the news, and all of a sudden they start pulling back, and then you do create the recession.
Kind of like the toilet paper shortage or whatever. Everybody's like, I feel like we kind of created that ourselves too.
Absolutely. So, in businesses start during recessions. I mean, there are a whole bunch of businesses out there that that have been started in a recession, like Netflix, Airbnb, Disney, Trader Joe's. I mean, there are franchises or businesses that start during recessions, pandemics, and they do just fine, right? So, let's talk a little bit about a franchise and investing or owning a franchise, trying to find the right one for a recession, right? So let's talk about what types of franchises are recession resistant. I don't think anything can be recession proof, but let's talk about this. So what are some characteristics of a business or a franchise, if you were to own a franchise? What are characteristics of franchises that would be recession resistant?
Gotcha. I think that I would sleep better at night if I owned a business that was a need, not a want. So what that means is, at some stage of your life, if you had to have it, and that's not a nice to have, but a have to have. I think senior care, as that's my background. That's a good example because unfortunately for older adults, as they're aging in place, at some point they have to have help. The alternative is, not pretty. So, I think that would be a good example.
Yeah. So it's a need, and it's not a want, a essential product or service, for lack of better terms. Okay. That's one of them. What about the things when I think about a business being recession resistant is they have a competitive advantage, something that separates them from the competition. So as we get into the troubled waters, the rough time, they have something that separates them.
Kind of like that moat they like to talk about, you're like intellectual property or the competitive advantage. Yeah. I think that's important too, right?
Yeah. I think about there's a blind franchise concept out there that they do. Unlike any other franchises that play in the window treatment space, they do repairs. So they do essentially repairs that something that separates them from the competition, maybe plays even better during a recession. So again, it's important businesses have that competitive edge or advantage going into a recession. I think it helps them.
I think some of the brands that we've been working with over the last few years are vertically integrating too, which I think was pretty forward thinking to integrate, basically buy or the manufacturing company, for example, so they can control the inventory and the cost of goods and everything. So
I thought you were going with this idea of the vertical integration where you have multiple different franchise concepts in one geographic area. So you scale vertically instead of horizontally. So having multiple different concepts. So if something zigs, something else zags. So that's where I thought you were going with that. But for sure.
I think that's a good strategy too, is to diversify. Like, the whole thing, a lot of times you hear about the cost of acquiring a customer. So if you can figure out strategies to maximize that acquisition cost, so, maybe have, like, if you go back to the blinds, maybe you also own the painting company, or maybe you also own the cabinet refinishing company or things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. If you get that where it's a share of household spend is key. I think the other thing that I learned, and I was listening to some private equity group speak, and they were talking a little bit about making a very large, significant investment into a group of franchises, right? And one of the things they said is, as they investigated, it was a boutique fitness concept that they were investing in. And somebody said, well, don't you worry about fitness and recessions and stuff like that? And they said, actually, we did the research and they said, we found that people will invest in things that they feel better about themselves when a recession happens, right? So they can't control if they got a job. They can't control if gas is so much, the inflation's this, but they can't control how they feel about themselves, whether it's looks or energy from working out and stuff like that. And that's always kind of stuck with me. So that makes a lot of sense to me, that you want to find businesses that, help people feel good about themselves, whether we're in a recession or not.
Yeah, I remember hearing that, many years ago about like barbershops or haircutting franchises. Because if your job is at risk, or you're unemployed, or whatever the scenario is, you're still going to want to go get your hair cut so that you can, go for interviews or feel good about yourself, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and again, I don't play in that haircutting space, so I have no idea about that. But anyways, so let's talk a little bit about the different areas. So when we discuss recession-resistant franchises, I think first is we'll go back to that need-based franchises or essential services. So let's talk about some that we think about, right? So for example, one that I think about that is a need, that's not a want, is restoration. Like if I have water damage in my house, I got to get it out. Or if I've got water in my business, mold, smoke damage, I got to get it out so I can get on with life. And I really look at that as a recession resistant business.
I think the other part of that also, like in restoration, a lot of times that's going to be third party pay. So it's going to be insurance paid. So also a couple things for the owner of the franchises, they're going to be able to do business to business development to get the referrals from, other professionals. So you're not only relying on customers looking you up in the yellow pages or on Google or whatever and calling you, but you're also getting referrals from third parties.
Yeah.
And then when it's third party pay, even when you think about like that hail damage that hit Chicago, I swear, like all my neighbors, everybody was getting their roof replaced. It was like all you heard was nails being hammered for weeks on end. But
and it's true. Yeah.
I mean, insurance picked up the tab for all that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're about ready to get our roof done. And bottom line is we have to get it done. We don't have a choice. Good economy, bad economy, COVID, no COVID.
Hey, tell our audience about wasn't your air conditioning story? It was like anyways, yeah. I think I'm remembering right. You tell the story though.
Yeah, no, I just we found that there's a lot of planned obsolescence when it comes to HVAC systems, and so ours just happened to go out in the middle of COVID-19, which was quite an experience. But I didn't realize what it took to get that. So it was.
Unplanned expense right there.
And of course I bought the most expensive system, those ones that you can sterilize the air so to get all the germs out. So I got all that good stuff that they say to get. So at some point, what about so we've talked about earlier in-home care. That's another essential service.
Yeah, I think anything to do with that kind of traditional home services, like you think about plumbing. We talked about HVAC, roofing, and a lot of, people do kind of tend to renovate more if things slow down a little bit. So they might not move to a new house or build a new house, but they might, renovate. I know we've even worked with like garage door franchises in the past. So like, doors break, things that break, doors break, probably anything environmental actually would be really strong. Like, upgrading your windows for more efficiency,
better insulation, so that your house is more efficient. And then I think a little bit even about businesses, like we have glass, we have to have our windows washed. Regardless of what happens, our windows, that's a representation. Or our parking lot, the asphalt needs to be maintained or it starts disintegrating. And so many different services. Let's talk a little bit now about, we talked about this idea of feeling better about yourself. People will spend money during a recession to feel good about themselves. So I think a little bit about, and I mentioned earlier, fitness, right? People are going to continue to have that membership so that they can stay healthy. They can feel good about themselves after they do a workout. Do you see the same thing?
Yeah. And I actually like, how the pendulum always swings. A lot of people were working out at home over the last 2 years. Myself included, but just recently I decided, what, screw this, I'm going to the gym. So I joined a really nice gym. It's fairly expensive, but I really enjoyed to get out, seeing some other people, working out on like, top shelf equipment, versus my home gym type thing. So I think, people like to be around other people and work out and just get out of the house a little bit. So many people are working from home and death by Zoom, that it's nice to get out and
I think they continue to invest in that that exercise, right? To stay
Yeah.
fit. And certainly that's nice. And then I think about, I've got a wife and I've got 3 daughters, and we spend a lot of money on beauty. So looking at me, I don't spend any money on beauty, right? But
Yeah.
they, they are going to get a haircut. They're going to still, recession or no recession, are going to get their nails done because it makes them feel good about themselves. Get their hair curled. I mean, those are things that people are just going to continue to do.
Yeah. It's a really good point. The like, have you seen some, like, how you say, cryotherapy, like where you go in and kind of get frozen?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's kind of like, wellness. There's different technology coming out to, like, you can work out in 20 minutes type thing.
Yeah. I think you see a lot of this around the wellness is the Medi spas.
Yep.
Where they're, so like if I need vitamins, I can get a vitamin injection, which is a much more efficient way. Or I was just reading, have you read Anthony Robbins' new book, Life Force? And
No.
the amount of science that's going into kind of helping people understand how they're doing from a standpoint of health is absolutely amazing to me. Do you realize now there are tests that you can take and it will screen for 50 cancers?
Did not know that.
I didn't know that, right? So those are the things that, irregardless if we got a recession or not, I'm going to invest money. If I can see if I've got cancer, I'm going to spend the money to do that.
Yeah, for sure. That's interesting. And also, like, going back to that third party pay, like, it's probably, conceivable that sometimes insurance will pick up the tab for some of that stuff too.
Now, you and I both know a little bit about having kids, right? And when we go through a recession, parents are going to spend whatever they need to do to support their kids, their development, right? Whether it's tutoring, like we've spent a lot of money on our kids with tutoring over the years. And irregardless if we've got a pandemic or no pandemic, recession, stuff like that, people need to look at investing or owning franchises that support kid activities.
I'm laughing because my 14-year-old decided a couple of years ago he was going to play D1 volleyball. So like thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars later, we're doing travel volleyball. I swear he plays volleyball year round and has, practice like all the time.
Yeah.
But he's a freshman and he's actually playing varsity volleyball. So it's kind of paying off. So I've been, kind of impressed.
Right. And they've got sports training. Like I sent my daughters to places where they worked on speed and agility, right? They, and stuff like that. So, and we're willing to pay that just to give them that edge in life that we hope from a standpoint. I think a little bit about also preschools. People are going to spend money on preschool, irregardless of recession, no recession.
Ironically, the same son, he did go to like Montessori, so he's going to be like the $1 million kid,
I like one of my favorites is in the martial arts space. Right?
Yeah.
Again, that whole idea of discipline and fitness and stuff like that, all tied up into martial arts. And again, good economy, bad economy. People are going to do that kind of stuff to support their kids' development.
Well, and ironically, Pete, I can check that box too. I got a black belt at home. Oh man.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing to me. And now I was just reading about a franchise where they teach kids how to code, like computer coding and stuff like that, software coding, which I find to be very interesting because I have kids in college that are learning coding. Think about if you owned a franchise that helped kids code. And literally, you're giving them an advantage before they get to high school or college. They know how to code. That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Right. And as a parent, I'm paying for that all day long.
Yeah. If you own that franchise, you think you need to know how to code, or you think that the franchise has it on
I don't know.
Streamline.
You haven't done that for your boys yet? You haven't put them through a coding program?
No, that would be that would be too useful.
Might get a little return off your investment. All right,
exactly.
Fair enough. So I think as we look towards a recession, we don't know if there's going to be a recession. We do know that businesses start during recessions, businesses are successful. We also know that if you own a franchise, you got a better chance of making it through a recession, right? You got the support of the franchisor, you got the support of the other franchisees. So you have an enhanced chance of getting through the recession. But we also know that if we are looking for a franchise, we want to maybe find something that's a little bit more recession resistant, whether it's a service-based business that deals with a need or want, or it's something that ties to making people feel good about themselves, or just good old-fashioned, we're supporting our kids. So some cool stuff out there as people look to invest in a franchise.
Yeah, it's always I think it's always a good time to explore your opportunities and figure out what you want to do for the next chapter of your life, right?
All right. To all those young minds at The Ohio State, at PTC fraternity, keep tuning in and we'll give you some great content.
Yeah. All right. Should we head to the library, Pete?
Yeah, let's go to the library.
Thanks for listening to the Hire Yourself podcast. For more resources, check out our website at hireyourself.com. And remember to subscribe to this podcast to receive each episode. Please leave us a rating, and we'd love to hear your feedback or suggestions for topics.